At the beginning of Dario Argento's Deep Red, a psychic woman giving a speech to an audience suddenly points at a specific audience member and accuses them of being a murderer.
You have killed, and you will kill again.
The audience member, whose identity remains hidden until the end of the film, quickly leaves the auditorium and enters a restroom. This restroom, though seemingly innocuous, contains a peculiar feature that is easy to miss the first time you watch the film. The restroom has not one door but two, with one door having a male figure and the other door having a female figure. Between the two doors is a thin wall, suggesting that from the outside looking in, one would think these doors lead to two different rooms. By all reasonable accounts, this is nothing short of absurd architecture. Why would there be a door specifically for men and another door specifically for women if they lead to the exact same room? And why would there be a wall between them to help reinforce the idea that they should go to different rooms but don't? The answer to those questions is the subject of this video. It must be noted that the director Dario Argento is an absolute perfectionist. His attention to detail and insistence upon getting the absolute best shots possible is what has allowed him to make some of the most visually compelling films in cinematic history. Therefore, I believe that Argento would never agree to use this particular bathroom if it didn't meet his strict expectations. Thus, Argento must have wanted this particular bathroom with this particular setup. The question is why this would be the case. What does he gain from using this particular bathroom? I argue that this bathroom serves two purposes. The first is that the presence of both a door for men and a door for women helps to conceal the killer's identity by creating ambiguity about their gender. The second reason is that Argento did not just set out to tell a murder mystery in Deep Red, but to write a story with much to say about gender roles and assumptions in society. In this way, the bathroom doors serve as a representation of the deeper message of the film, and it is this deeper message that is of interest to me. Deep Red at every turn is designed to trick the viewer into assuming that its mysterious killer is a male, despite there being no real evidence that this is the case. This is what makes the eventual reveal that the killer is in fact a woman so shocking for the audience and especially the movie's protagonist. I want to first discuss how the movie's protagonist serves as a representation of misogyny, and how this misogyny is presented as an illogical worldview that the character has to overcome in order to solve the case and discover the killer's true identity. Then I will discuss how the female characters throughout the film serve as a representation of the diverse potential of women, and how this further exposes the ridiculousness of misogyny. The single best piece of evidence that Deep Red is a social commentary on gender is its protagonist, Marcus Daly. Marcus is one of, if not my favorite protagonist in horror history. The character is so rich with human emotion and flaws. There are times where he is extremely likable, such as when he checks on a little girl after he witnesses her being abused by her father, or when he inadvertently finds out that his best friend Carlo is gay.
Got me red-handed, huh? Good old Carlo. He's not only a drunk, but a faggot as well.
At which point he immediately shows that he has nothing against him for it, an extremely progressive decision on Argento's part, given the film came out in 1975. However, Marcus also has moments where he is crude and arrogant, such as when he dismissively tells his alcoholic friend that he doesn't think they will live much longer.
You go on the way you are, and you won't last very long.
Marcus's biggest flaw as a protagonist is that he is a misogynist, with passionately held assumptions about gender. The first time we see Marcus discussing the potential identity of the killer with a detective, he refers to the killer as a man, despite having no evidence that this is the case.
All I said was that I saw a man in a brown raincoat walking away from the building.
The emphasis that he puts on the word man is a deliberate decision by actor David Hemmings and Argento. They want you to feel the presumption of Marcus, and this use of the word man appears multiple times just in the beginning of the movie. His most important scene for the sake of this discussion occurs when he is having a discussion with the film's second protagonist, Gianna. Upon asking Gianna why she decided to become a journalist, this interaction takes place.
I like working. I think that a woman's gotta be independent, so
Oh,
she can...
don't start with me about all that woman stuff. It is a fundamental fact. Men are different from women. Women are weaker. Well, they're gentler.
Humored by Marcus's blatant misogyny, Gianna challenges him to an arm wrestle. Gianna does win, however, as Marcus correctly points out, she cheats by lifting her elbow off of the table.
That was an absolute elbow off the table. That is a total and absolute cheat.
With that said, her cheating doesn't matter because it is nonetheless the case that she and Marcus were dead tied before then, showing that they are of equal strength in spite of Marcus's belief that she must be weaker than him because she is a woman. This scene shows not only that Argento deliberately wrote a misogynistic character, but that he wanted to show how flawed this worldview is. In spite of the fact that Marcus initially dismisses the arm wrestle on the grounds that Gianna cheated, it is later suggested that this interaction had a genuine impact on his worldview. During a sequence in which the killer is attempting to break into his home, Marcus just so happens to receive a phone call from Gianna. Rather than hanging up and calling the police, he chooses to stay on the line with her. Gianna, despite being a woman that Marcus would have originally viewed as a detriment, is revealed to be a source of comfort and security for him in this moment. On top of this, rather than referring to the person breaking into his home as a man, he instead just calls them a somebody, revealing that his gendered assumptions are starting to dissipate.
Gianna, there's somebody in the house. I'm absolutely trying to kill me, you know?
This contrast is made all the more apparent in the very next scene, in which Marcus is doing detective work with two other men. One of the men speaks about the killer and presumptively refers to them as a man.
In everyday life, this person could appear quite normal. As normal as you or I, or anyone else. And when he kills, he must recreate these specific conditions, which will trigger the release of all his pent-up madness.
Whereas Marcus does not. He makes no gendered assumptions at all, and instead tries to discuss only the facts of the case. During the film's climax, in which Marcus seems to have the killer cornered, his friend Carlo reveals himself and claims responsibility for the murders. Marcus does not kill him. However, when Carlo flees and runs away from the police, he is killed in the process. Afterwards, we see Marcus walking through the streets as he reflects on what just happened. Suddenly, he has an epiphany. He remembers that Carlo was standing right next to him during one of the murders, that it is impossible for Carlo to be the killer.
No, it's impossible. He was with me when Helga was killed. No, it couldn't have been him.
It is only then that Marcus realizes that his gendered assumptions led him to an impossible conclusion. Finally, he is able to let go of his assumptions and focus purely on the facts of the case, which leads him to discover the killer's true identity, Carlo's mother. Some might frown at the idea that this film challenges misogyny by writing a female serial killer character. I would agree with this if she was the only character in the movie that challenged or changed Marcus's misogynistic worldview. This is not the case, however, as the film has multiple female characters that show how Marcus's worldview is evolving. The character with the biggest impact on him is not the killer, but Gianna. It is Gianna who first proved to him that women can be just as strong as men. Gianna serves as a representation of the optimistic side of female empowerment. She represents that women are capable of activities and careers dominated by men. She represents strength, courage, and independence. Carlo's mother represents the dark side of this equation. She represents that women are capable of just as much cruelty and evil as men. She is shown to be capable of physically overpowering both men and women. She is a representation of strength, but unlike Gianna, she represents malicious strength. Another important female character that challenges Marcus's worldview less directly is the little girl I briefly mentioned earlier that is abused by her father. During a scene involving the three of them, Marcus watches the father hit the little girl as we see his concerned, disapproving look. However, it is revealed to the audience that the reason her father hit her was because she stabbed a needle through a small lizard, a detail that Marcus remains unaware of. This scene shows how Marcus views the little girl as completely innocent and harmless, while the audience can see that this is not the case. Later in the film, Marcus finds a drawing in the little girl's room that depicts a bloody murder. It is only then that Marcus finally realizes that this little girl he views as innocent may not be. I believe that the little girl represents Marcus's belief that women are gentler than men, and she acts as living proof that he is mistaken about this. The character that serves as the contrast to the little girl is the elderly maid character. While her screen time is minimal, her personality is made clear in the time she has. She is a soft-spoken, anxious, and extremely friendly person.
Minor birds, well, I don't know. I guess I don't understand. They don't just cheep, do they?
They whistle. They imitate the washing machine, the television, even our own voices.
Oh, it's like having a madman in the house. They scare me. Well,
Bye.
goodbye.
See you tomorrow.
Thus, the little girl represents that even as a child, a woman can be capable of violence, while the maid represents that a woman can be completely harmless and gentle for a lifetime. These four characters collectively paint an image of women that holds no assumptions. They show that while it may be true that some women, such as the maid, are gentle, it is also the case that women like Gianna exist, who are strong and assertive. Argento does not attempt to box women into a particular identity. Instead, he shows the potential of women. He proves Marcus's misogynistic worldview wrong by showing that his narrow understanding of women is mistaken. Argento didn't make every woman in the film hyper-independent and strong, because that is simply not true of either gender. The only truth that exists about both men and women, and every human being for that matter, is that they are diverse. There are some who are gentle and some who are assertive. There are some who are shy and some who are outgoing. And there are some who are violent and some who are innocent. That is the genius of Deep Red. It is an eloquent dismantling of misogyny, but it is also a story about the potential of humans. It challenges the viewer to let go of all their assumptions, because the only way to figure out the killer's true identity, which is to say the only way to discover the truth of the world, is to let go of our assumptions of how people should be and embrace the potential of what they could be.